All right, Derek, man, let's get into it, man.
Yeah,
So,
let's do it, man.
start at the top, man. What was it like growing up for you in Ashland, Ohio?
Growing up in Ashland, Ohio. Ashland is about 45 minutes from here, man.
Okay.
Small town, 10, 15, 20,000 people. Not a lot. We got your prototypical Walmart, Dollar General, whatnot, but I grew up there. My parents were two of the hardest working people I knew, for us growing up, man, it was always play outside, and it was always, that's how I got into sports and kind of all that stuff, because back then, it wasn't, we didn't have the PlayStations and the computers and the iPads and whatever. It was like, hey, man, if you're off from school, go outside and play. Mm-hmm. And that's when the kind of throwing apples at a tree and kind of, doing all that. But Ashland was cool, man. I'll always remember where I was from, 100%.
Can you tell us more about your family and the role they have in your journey?
Yeah, man. So like I said, my dad, I really looked up to him. My dad was actually a caretaker for a cemetery.
Respect.
So he was a caretaker, and he worked there 14 years, and he always, he worked his ass off, man. And he was a big part in me and my sister, too, in our travel ball teams growing up and whatnot. My mom, bless her heart, she's actually a business owner. So I'd like to give a shout out to Wake Up and Waffle in Sandusky. If you guys are in Sandusky.
Oh, man.
And it won a breakfast. It's the top breakfast joint in Sandusky. So that's my mom, man. She's my inspiration, too, because she, is one of the hardest working women that I know. And they worked their butts off for me and my sister, and we never went without.
Man.
I'm not going to sit here and say we didn't have a lot of money, but they made it possible so we could go out to eat, so we can get the new bats, so we can do all this, and they worked their butts off. So,
what's some of your earliest memories playing baseball?
Some of my earliest memories of baseball, man, just in the backyard, man, back in the backyard with my dad, throwing on the field or whatnot. My dad was very hard on me. He was very hard on me and my sister. I'm not going to sit here and say he wasn't, but it was for a point. It was for a purpose, and it was always to strive for greatness, not be mediocre. Because in this life, it's so easy to be mediocre. It's so easy and to stick out. And he just always pushed us. But man, just 8, 9 years old and on the pitcher's mound, and just perfecting that craft. And it was the little things. When I was young, I always remember it's not about how hard you hit the ball. It's not about how fast you throw a ball, but it was the little things. It was about how you carry yourself if you strike out. It was about never throw your bat and helmet. It was about always hustle, because it takes 0% of talent to hustle. That's what a lot of these kids, I do clinics and practices now, and you could be the best player in the world, but if you walk across that field, if you strike out, you don't have that, your body language says that, college coach is going to write you off, bro.
Man.
College coach is going to write. So it's all about, to answer your question, it's all about, it was all about how I handled myself at an early age. So.
You remember that first, home run that you hit?
I remember that first home run. Yeah, that first home run. It was actually off a guy I didn't really like, because we all grew up together.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I'm saying, rec league, you always play with your classmates,
Mm-hmm.
You'd be on different teams. And, I actually, to be honest with you, I do remember it was at Edmonds Field here in Ashland, Ohio. And I actually got yelled at by my dad when I hit my first home run, because I watched the ball. I didn't run.
Oh, he was kind of showing off I did.
I hit the ball, and I hit the ball, and he was like, run. Don't you ever walk on a ball field. And ever since then, man.
You're just watching it, admiring it, trying to admire your first one.
I was 8, 9, 10 years old.
So you were like, yeah, and Dad was like, who do you think you are? Run the bases.
Right. He was hard, man. But for good cause. But yeah, I remember in some of those games, man, back then, I don't remember the specifics or whatnot, but a lot of those guys I grew up, childhood friends, a lot of those guys in high school and carrying on into college,
Okay.
A lot of memories there.
So you went from Ashland High and then Ashland University.
That's right.
How did it feel getting chosen by Team USA?
Oh man, so Team USA, that was a 14U. So what we did, actually, I'll never forget this. I worked at the cemetery. My first ever, I don't know if I should say this, my first ever job was at the cemetery. I was mowing grass, and I was weed eating, just to help out. And going to Team USA, so I was on a travel baseball team, and going on Team USA, we had tryouts. There was always tryouts, and it was in Cleveland. And you go to tryouts, and you have an hour to showcase what you have. 5 swings, 5 ground balls next. And I was the only one in Ohio chosen.
Man.
So I was on Team USA with a bunch of other people. No practices, no nothing like that. Probably 16, 17 kids. And we played down in Puerto Rico. San Juan, Puerto Rico is where we did. And I just remember working. How it was I remember the preparation because it really didn't hit me. I was 14, years old, but the preparation of, hey, we got to pay for this trip.
Yeah.
So instead of you leaving at 9, 10 o'clock in the morning, you're going to have to stay out there and you're going to have to weed eat some more, and it really made me value because, like I said, I earned it. We didn't have a lot of money to where we could go travel here, go travel there. So it was all about, and then I would transfer that over into the batting cage. Man, this is real. Like I need, So, but yeah, we went down to San Juan, Puerto Rico. It was probably a week there, and it was really cool. That was really my first, really true, like, wow, like this is something. Playing from kids from California at such a young age, playing from kids from California, playing from kids from Puerto Rico. That was my first time ever out of the country. Well, out of the country, was Puerto Rico. So. Really eye-opening. It was really eye-opening.
Were you just playing like other international teams, like other countries, all kind of converge down there?
Yes, right. Yep. And then also too, man, at that young age, I kind of had a lot of pressure, I guess, especially from my parents. But it was a lot of pressure because it was just, don't strike out, don't do this. And I was kind of like over, and I did, so I kind of that pressure. And that was my really first ever time on a ball field. With adversity. And like I said, I did not do good. I'm going to sit here and be honest. I did not do good. But that was my really first ever time of like facing adversity and facing pressure. Because I don't believe anyone should ever be nervous if you're prepared. That's why you practice. If you practice and you go over stuff, you should never be prepared in the game. It's all fluid motions and whatnot.